everybody, and welcome to episode 104 of On the Road with AutoTrader, where we make car stuff simple for Canadians. My name is Jodi Lai, and I'm the editor-in-chief of AutoTrader.
And my name is Dan Alika, and I'm AutoTrader's road test editor.
And I'm Sebastian Bell, and I am the associate editor at AutoTrader.
Did all two of you do the hand flourish?
I did.
You did. I didn't. I just saw and giggled because
I timed it really well.
You
did. It was
we were
perfect.
in sync. Before we get to the topic at hand,
yes,
I do want to take a minute here to vent.
Oh, is this a Dan rant?
A little bit, yeah.
a famous Dan rant.
So yesterday was very nice.
Beautiful.
It was 23 degrees. And so I had gone for a run, and then I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to stop by the pharmacy. I needed Tums. Sometimes this is a pro tip for anyone who runs or cycles. If you've eaten recently, take a couple Tums just to make sure that you don't get
Just
like acid reflux and whatever, right?
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh, you know what? I only have a couple left, so I may as well grab a thing. So I walked up the street, and I'm walking south, and it's a very busy road, but there is a oversized shared pedestrian and cyclist walkway, path, whatever. And I'm walking along, minding my own business, and up ahead, what do I see? Purolator branded Bright Drop van just come park in the very middle of this pathway, fully obstruct. Like there is no way around it and there was a fence on the property that he was adjacent to,
Right.
and then out onto the road. So as I get closer, I am like, this guy's still here. So he comes walking out, and as I do, I wasn't rude about it, but I said to him, word for word, I said, I got to tell you, I'm pretty disappointed that this is the decision that you made.
Dan's not mad. He's disappointed.
It's even worse.
It's even worse.
And he got very defensive and asked kind of rhetorically, well, where should I park instead? I said, I don't know, the driveway, stop on the road. But I go, dude, it's a nice day. There are kids on bikes. There are so many schools in my neighborhood. And there's it's called the Nine Creeks Trail that outlets. So it is a very high traffic area for foot and cyclist traffic.
Totally.
And I said, you've just, and he goes, well, there's nothing wrong. It's perfectly legal.
No, it's not.
And I'm like, now this is, that I'm a pretty, I'm like a dog with a bone on this stuff. So I did, and I didn't call the cops in the moment, but I wanted to verify. So I called the non-emergency line and I asked them, the officer at the desk was like, no, that's absolutely not. He's like, I understand couriers will stop places that they shouldn't, but it's absolutely not legal.
Yeah.
And my thing is this. I understand, listen, first of all, that job can be thankless.
Of course.
It can be tough. You deal with angry customers, dogs chasing after, all of this,
That's still a thing. Do dogs still chase after delivery people?
This postal worker wrote a column for the Toronto Star, and she said, I still get chased by dogs and whatever. Anyways.
Wow.
So I get that they go through all of this. It's a tough job, but for the, convenience of the driver to think worst case scenario that some kid on his bike has to go around out into the road, how is that driver going to think? It's so just
they're not thinking about that. That's the problem.
And it is so aggravating to see. And I understand that lots of people are in this position, first responders and stuff. When I was a newspaper reporter, I used to have to go to the scenes of a lot of fatal collisions and whatnot. When you see stuff like that, it's not pleasant.
No.
And my thought is this driver choosing convenience over the safety of other road users.
And it was so avoidable. Also, the excuse of it's not illegal doesn't mean it's not a jerk move.
And then I said, well, I used a word that started with a D. But he said
disappointing move?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
He goes, well, call the cops. They'll tell. So that's what prompted me to call the cops. He goes, call the cops. They'll tell you. And I'm like,
He was really digging in on this.
He was. So here's the other aggravating part. I called to complain to Purolator, and the customer service guy, same approach. He goes, well, it's not just Purolator that does it. And I go, that's not why I'm calling.
It's a bad excuse.
I go, I don't care if it's FedEx, if it's Canada Post, if it doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
And I said to him, he told me that it's perfectly legal. I said, is that the official position here? And he was like, yes, he didn't say it's legal. He said that it is quite common. And I told him straight, I was like, you're dancing around the question. I'm like, this is a yes or a no. Yeah. Is it legal or is it illegal to be stopped on a clearly marked shared pathway for pedestrians and cyclists? And this to me is so unacceptable
Yep.
that I needed to vent a little bit because I hated every second of it.
It happens to me all the time, especially I mostly bike downtown. So it's usually Uber people getting out of cars right in the bike lane.
Yeah.
And you're just like, when the car pulls over, you're not sure when the door is going to open. You're not sure if you're going to have time to get around them.
Totally.
It's just everybody behind you has to slow down.
This is why I really I don't love relying on tech, and I guess it's sort of related to what we're going to be talking about today, but the
Love a segue.
new-ish implementation of not just rear cross traffic alert and rear approach alert, but safe exit assist, where it'll warn you and in some cases even prevent you from opening the doors if there's a vehicle or a cyclist approaching from behind. Because I'll be honest with you, years ago, like I was maybe 21, I was driving down Queen West and I stopped my car and I looked in my mirror and there was nobody coming. And by the time I opened my door, a cyclist had come flying down and I almost doored this guy.
That happened to me once and the lady screamed, and that scream, I can still hear it echoing because I felt so bad because it was like, it was my fault and I thought I was being careful, but it will still happen, you know?
So that's the thing. I do have, we're all road users. I really like this quote that I read once about when Doug Ford decided that he, is the premier of Toronto because he's so focused on the city. And ripping up bike lanes. Yeah. And there was a great quote from someone who had unfortunately struck a pedestrian that had written sort of a first-person story for the Star about it and said, everyone is a pedestrian at some point in the day. Yeah. Whether you're walking to your car or from your car, whatever, you are a pedestrian. So you should understand the vulnerability of these other road users.
Absolutely.
And so I'm cognizant of that, but I also think that, we shouldn't rely on technology entirely, but it is nice to have these features in these just in case moments.
Totally.
I was driving my 98 Tercel. It did not have safe exit assist,
But you can do the Dutch Open where you cross your body to open the door.
It forces you to
look over your shoulder
check in a sense. Yeah, I agree. And that was a big lesson learned for me, and I was very young. And again, I wasn't being just careless and flying.
Totally.
I looked, and by the time I opened it, this guy had come zipping along. And anyways,
I think that's the sobering thing is that no matter how careful you are, you can always be more careful. And also, you should always be paying attention.
But again, it brings me back to this Purelator guy choosing to park on this pathway instead. And I said to him, I was like, when he said, well, where else am I supposed to stop? I said, I don't know, the driveway. And he goes, we're not allowed to stop in driveways. And I go, okay, maybe that's true. I said, I have no way of knowing.
You're not allowed to stop here
that's
either,
what I said. And that's when he said it's perfectly legal and encouraged me to call the cops and find out for myself.
Wow.
And I'm like, now there is a chance I emailed the CEO of Purelator this morning.
This is your special trick. And I love when you do this because you get results.
Because I decided to sleep on it and I woke up this morning still feeling pretty rattled by the experience. Not that we had a yelling match or anything, but just how dismissive he was of the situation that I'm like, this is not the right approach.
Yeah.
And especially, I always come back to this idea, you're flying your company flag, man. Yeah. It's not like you're just driving a personal car with no known markings on it. I know exactly who you work for.
Totally.
You're an ambassador for that brand.
Yeah.
Like,
turns out the brand doesn't care either, though, apparently.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what they have to say.
We'll see what the CEO says. I want updates on this next episode. But I mean, it's good that you brought that up because we are talking autonomous vehicles today, what it means. We're going to help demystify it, kind of point out situations like this where, it just won't work properly.
Yeah. So this was prompted by the news that Waymo has been kind of petitioning the city of Toronto to bring its services here.
Yeah.
It's a controversial topic.
Totally.
And I think people, you have just as many I think the polls that I've read say that there are more people that are uncomfortable or wouldn't choose to ride in an autonomous cab than they would. But you do see a lot of public sentiment, at least interest in the service. I understand the controversy of it. I also understand that basically the city of Toronto doesn't have a choice because a handful of years ago, the province passed some legislation that allows for autonomous programs to operate on the province's roads. Now, of course, it needs to be in certain areas, and it's highly regulated, but still, if Waymo talks to the province will say, yeah, okay, we've got a deal. The city can't do anything about it.
Yeah, it is not the city's decision. It is the province's decision. And it is one of those difficult situations where you do want to have legislation in place to sort of, ensure that it's happening safely, but also not to just be in big autonomous vehicles pocket. So it's a complicated situation. And apparently even the province is pretty resistant to the idea right now.
Absolutely. I will say, I want to preface that this next part with the fact that I have ridden in a couple Waymos.
Yeah.
As a sort of professional experiment.
Totally.
I was in San Francisco for the Volkswagen ID Buzz First Drive program, and a handful of us, including Mark Richardson, journalist and freelancer, writes for the Globe and Mail. He had said, hey, I really want to do this. I've signed up for an account if you'd like to join me. So we had 2 cars, and it was 4 of us in each vehicle.
Yeah.
What was most startling is how quickly I was really nervous.
Yeah.
I was uneasy about the whole experience. And maybe 5 minutes into the drive, Mark was in the front seat, and he leaned back and he went, hey, have you thought much about what's happening? And I was like, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
You got used to it so quickly.
And so from that perspective, I will say these are the technology behind it. I mean, they're not just doing their own thing. These are geofenced. It is very controlled.
Yes.
However, it works well. In my experience, It has worked really well.
Yeah. And so maybe we should talk about the levels of automation.
Yeah, that's
just to get our language right. So there's 6 levels, kind of 5 levels, but there's also a level 0, which is basically no automation.
My 98 Tercel.
Your 98 Tercel, exactly. There's just nothing going on. Level 1 is some level of driver assistance, like adaptive cruise control or lane keeping assist, basically something that can adjust the speed on the fly, or that can keep you in your lane a little bit. That's honestly most cars at this point. Level 2 is partial automation. That's most of the private vehicles that you see on the road right now that have some sort of advanced driver assist system.
Toyota with lane tracing is a great example of this.
But even autopilot, even all of these things. I mean, some people argue that they're a level 2+ because they're a little bit extra. But anyway, the sort of thing that you have to pay attention to is you have to keep your eyes on the road at all time. So the car can be sort of leading the way, but the driver has to be
hands on the wheel.
And hands on the wheel is an important one too.
Yeah, totally, at all times. Which is a bit tricky because it does get into some areas where you have to be ready to take over at the drop of a hat.
Yes,
which is a dangerous moment. But anyway, we'll come back to that later. Level 3 is conditional automation. So at this point, you can take your hands off the wheel a little bit more. And in certain circumstances, depending on the vehicle, you can take your eyes off the wheel as well. I think that Mercedes is the only company doing this in North America, and it's in one market, and it's very, very limited, and it's very, very in testing. The reality is that nobody in Canada is seeing a level 3 automated vehicle on the road. Level 4 is basically an autonomous vehicle, but it still has a steering wheel. So you can take over, or you can just let the car take over. I think level 3 is you can read a book. Level 4 is you can take a nap is an easy way to think about it. Again, there are no private vehicles on the road like this. Companies like Waymo and Zoox and all these other companies argue that they're like this. There is an argument to be made that they're actually level 3 because they have drivers in that can take over remotely. So you can argue that they still have the ability to take over and still sometimes do have to take over, but that's a very high level argument. And then level 5 is full automation, no steering wheel, no human-oriented controls, a pod that you get into and it goes off down the road.
Tesla's claims or Elon's claims of these robo-taxis that, I don't know, I saw a video recently actually of one of these robo-taxis, and there was a guy driving it, steering wheel and everything. So I once again, Elon Musk is a liar.
Yeah.
And we have the proof.
This is the thing that I would like to say off the bat is that whether or not the claims that these companies make are true, which varies from company to company, you do have to take into account that when a company advertising this stuff, be it Waymo, be it Cruise Automation doesn't exist anymore, but be it whatever, or Tesla, they are making claims for their company. They are lobbying.
Yeah.
They are saying that their vehicles will be safer, but we have to do an independent audit, and companies are not necessarily trustworthy.
Well, that brings me to my first point on this whole debate. And it's nobody still to this day has answered for me the two fundamental questions. Do we need this technology? And if so, why? Nobody has actually sat down and explained to me, not just because it's cool, not just because we can, not because it's going to, the whole idea of it being safer than human drivers, first of all, I still say is debatable.
It's debatable.
But regardless, that's not the reason these companies are doing it, because if you use Waymo as an example, now it started as an independent and it's now owned by Alphabet, which is Google's parent company.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you guys. I'm not aware of some altruistic division of Alphabet. Everything that company does is either for profit or for data generation. There's no, for the goodness of society, we're going to develop this technology and deploy it on roads in cities like San Francisco and San Antonio and Austin. There is a reason they're doing this, and it is either profit-based or data-based, or both.
And to your point, the question of safety is really, it varies from company to company. And my understanding is you have pulled up some data that complicates this, but I was looking at the National Institutes of Health, which in its analysis of Waymo's driving found that it was safer than human drivers in all situations. Great. Awesome. But Tesla's own data on its robotaxi test, their vehicles were 4 times more incident prone than human drivers.
Yeah.
In a tiny amount of time. And they were, so my point isn't that all autonomous vehicles are necessarily unsafe. It's just that it varies enormously. And to your point, the companies are profit driven. So they are not funded, they are not necessarily invested in our well-being.
Yeah.
So either they need to face penalties from the government for, the way that we make them safer is if they face penalties, or if we demand it through refusing to use it, which I would argue that the number of people who use autopilot and Tesla's autopilot and FSD would suggest that we aren't demanding safety of these automakers.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's true. And there was an interesting opinion piece from a doctor and medical researcher in the New York Times. And he does a lot of work in the ER room. So he sees a lot of traffic accidents and stuff like that. And he was basically saying that the data on Waymo's safety record is too good to be ignored, and we should be changing course as quickly as we can to adapt autonomous technology for safer roads, because traffic collisions it's a huge problem.
Absolutely.
I kind of see where he's going with that, but I also feel like there are so many other solutions that make more sense, are more affordable, and don't put that power back into big corporations.
But to me, I get it. But making these decisions just based on the data obviously is important, and this person is on the front lines of seeing, the results of these collisions. But the number of times, to me, there is the nagging issue of, we see these viral videos of intersections shut down with 4 Waymos that don't know what to do because they've encountered each other, and it's like the Spider-Man meme all pointing at each other, and they clog the intersection. Yeah. There are incidents of, pretty sad story in San Francisco about that woman being dragged 200 feet because the vehicle is kind of trained to, if there's no known obstruction, to just override that sensor and say, okay, you've given it an opportunity to get out of the way. It must be a phantom signal, which happens with these sensors more frequently than people would like to acknowledge.
The woman in Arizona who got killed by a Uber test vehicle.
And there was a more recent one where an autonomous robotaxi ran over a bodega cat, and it was a huge deal.
That was
right?
get animals involved, and
and people are going to get riled up.
Arms.
So people, because it was a bodega cat, it was like this cat was like a institution in the community.
Mhm.
But like they're like, we don't have sensors underneath our car, so
Yeah.
how are we supposed to know?
Mm.
And then the critics were like, well, if it was a human driver, they probably would have seen me trying to flag, oh,
Absolutely.
there's something there,
Yeah,
right? And so there's no easy answer.
But then there's also the idea that regardless of how advanced this technology becomes, how it interacts with human drivers, to me, from the very beginning, the first time I wrote about autonomy was 2012. And I did this story. I had gone to this panel discussion with these automotive engineers, and they all said, yeah, the technology's here, and it's a liability issue that's kind of holding them up. And okay, fine. Now here we are, 14 years later, we're essentially in the same standoff. But the problem is, if you either have to go all autonomous, which is never going to happen.
Like 100% private, public, everything has to be.
Yeah, because they don't. It's just like in 2016, I think I had gone to a Mercedes event, and the whole thing that they were talking about was this vehicle to grid communication technology. So if there's a collision up ahead, that car will speak to the grid and it will alert every other Mercedes on the road. And it's like, okay, great. And Mercedes is a big auto maker, but its market share is still only a few percentage points of the overall market. So until all of the vehicles are talking to each other, it's effectively useless.
And especially because Mercedes is a luxury brand. Like people, they're basically saying that if you can't afford this technology, you can't participate in the safetiness of it.
It's just, I don't know. I'm just very put off by this idea that we're heading down this path, and people that are advocating for it kind of for the right reasons. But I think the risk outweighs the reward.
I think so as well. And I think a lot of when you see people and media and stuff talking about autonomous vehicles, they're not talking about it in a way where it's like helpful for the people who really need it, right?
Yeah.
So like all of these arguments always come back to like, okay, why do we need more robo-taxis when you can just use public transit, which is exceedingly safe, right?
Yeah.
And moves more people, a taxi can hold 1-3 people maybe.
Well, this is my problem with the robotaxi solution, and honestly, the private autonomous vehicle, is that I think that if you consider the promises, if you consider what you would want, what your ideal scenario is in an autonomous vehicle, which I get, it's whiz-bang, it's new, it's kind of cool. The first time you get into something that has a little bit of automation, you're like, ooh, it's kind of cool. But if you think about what you really want out of it, that novelty fades immediately in your Waymo example.
Yeah.
The thing that you want is to get places quickly.
Yeah.
The dream is to not have to think about getting downtown to go to that game, to not have to worry about getting to work. But when you really consider a reality where a majority or many vehicles are autonomous, I think we run into the same issue as we do when we build more highways.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that you're inducing demand. So you have this thing that you think is a solution to make things go quicker. But what you do is you are effectively pushing more people into autonomous vehicles, which is pushing more people onto the roads, more vehicles than the roads can handle. Which all of a sudden you get into the same issue that you had before, which is it doesn't matter how autonomous this vehicle is, it still has to wait at a stop sign.
Congestion is congestion.
Still, and those. Not only that, but not only will more people be using it, but more people will be using it without people in it.
Yeah.
So why pay for parking? You can just go home. You can just send the car home. An empty car is driving down the road. Why pay for delivery? You can just send the car to go pick it up, or you can send it to deliver a thing that you're selling on whatever your Etsy store. So I think the problem is that you get more and more and more and more vehicles on the road, which is a problem for congestion, but it's also a problem for efficiency. And the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, they did a study where they sort of tried to judge what this effect would be on emissions. And they, in their analysis, they found that in a scenario like that, where you are thinking through how people are realistically using autonomous vehicles, they saw emissions go up by as much as 200%.
Yeah.
Because more and more vehicles are on the road, and more vehicles are sitting, and more vehicles are empty.
Now, I mean, fringe use cases that I do understand people pining for it. You know, my aunt is quadriplegic. She's been in a wheelchair for decades, you know, and for her, that sense of freedom that autonomy would provide, that she can make choices for herself. You know, she is a very independent person, an amazing person who has done amazing things, had an amazing career, but still she's limited to basically other people getting her to places she needs to go or she wants to go. So I understand. She asks me about it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's tough to have this conversation with somebody to basically be like, it's not happening. Like it's not going to happen in time for you to see it, you know? And that's tough to, but I mean, again, looking at the greater societal benefits of it, I still don't have, aside from these small use cases, people like my aunt, which I would love for her to be able to have the same abilities and the same freedoms as the rest of us.
Yeah.
But outside of those use cases, nobody has sat down and given me a clear demonstration of why we need this technology in the first place.
And my problem with those arguments, and like, yeah, that's certainly a benefit. And yes, those people deserve to have accessibility, but like, Waymo doesn't care about those people. And where were you, like, where were all of these arguments when like Wheel-Trans was getting funded? Why are you, and like, there are solutions for people out there, and I think that we could make better solutions for people out there. And obviously I don't have a great understanding of what it's like to live that life. And I can understand why having the freedom to go wherever you want, whenever you want would be a huge boon to you. And like, yes, we should be focusing energy on trying to make those things happen.
Yeah.
I just doubt that Elon Musk and his ketamine haze really cares about those people.
Yeah. This is also, you know what? I just thought about this. I have a note saved in my phone, okay? And this is from, I need to pull the date here because I saved this specifically because I just kind of knew that I was going to be able to call Elon on his BS.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is from the Associated Press. And this is from April 22nd, 2025. So almost a year earlier, that, you know, he was talking about Tesla's struggles, and he was coming off the Doge nonsense and all that backlash.
We live in such a stupid time. Anyway,
this is a direct quote from his conference call. It was an investor conference call. There will be millions of Teslas operating autonomously in the second half of the year.
Yeah.
This is 2025.
Yeah.
Can you go to sleep in our cars and wake up at your destination? I'm confident that that will be available in many cities in the US by the end of the year. Guess what, guys? That never happened.
No.
This man continues to sell you lies.
Yeah.
All of these acolytes out there who are running around and they just want to heap praise on this guy. He is a snake oil salesman. Don't get me wrong. I think Tesla has definitely raised the standard for electrification of the auto industry in general. He was a disruptor. His company was a disruptor. It has accomplished big things. Its range is still great, but he is just feeding lies nonstop to get people to buy his cars and to get more investors to dump money into his company. Yeah. And this autonomous stuff is no exception. No. It's all lies.
Yeah, I mean, even calling it full self-driving, branding it autopilot is really contrary to what the safety regulators want people to be calling these functions, right? They need to be able to describe exactly what they do so that a regular consumer can understand and not like, overpromise.
Yeah.
Jodi, it feels like you're stealing my thunder for the next episode when we talk about regulations we would like to see.
Oh yeah, that's true. And I guess on that note, we are running out of time. This is a crazy topic. We could honestly talk about this forever.
Yeah.
We don't really have any answers. I mean, it's evolving. I still fail to see the use case for a lot of people.
I'd like to hear what some of our listeners and viewers have to say about it. So, share your feedback and your comments and your thoughts, whether they're founded in fact and science or whether they're just your opinions. We'd love to hear from you guys, so you can email us at expert@trader.ca.
Yep.
I got it right.
You got it right, finally.
Nailed it.
104 episodes later.
And before Ask an Expert, here's a message from your friends at AutoTrader. We at Own the Road love making car stuff simple for Canadians, and the AutoTrader app does the exact same thing. Sign up for price drop notifications, find out how much your car is worth, get an instant cash offer from a vetted dealership, get all your expert advice, and more. Download the AutoTrader app today. This week's Ask an Expert comes from our friend Barish.
Yo, Barish, what up?
Barish.
Experts, I don't want to sound insensitive given everything happening globally, but my question is admittedly a bit of a privileged one. When is the right time to take out your summer car out of storage? I understand that it depends somewhat on the weather, but factors like pothole repairs and clearing off the white residue from salt and de-icers also affect timing. I'd appreciate hearing your perspectives. Thanks.
It is wild how many times on the first nice day, I'll see a classic car out on the road, and I'm just like,
It's too soon.
There's still salt on that road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, my personal opinion is there's no drop dead date.
Yeah.
I look at it just so happens this week that we're recording where we're finally out of it, and we've had these kind of not quite back to back, but a couple rainstorms that are going to wash away a lot of the residue on the roads.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want is to kick up all that salt and nastiness, and it's going to nestle in all those cracks and crevices of your car.
Yeah.
And that's what leads to rust. So I would say once the temperatures kind of consistently hit double digits, even low double digits is fine. And then once you can kind of tell you're not, if you're driving, if you have a daily driver and you're not hearing all that gravel and stuff kicking up underneath your car as you drive, that's a pretty good sign that, okay, the roads are clear enough to go.
I was going to say, like, once you see the street sweepers out there getting rid of all that sand and stuff.
Am I crazy? This is one of those, am I having like a Bernstein Bears thing here? But when I was a kid, I feel like that was the sign of the arrival of spring, is the street sweepers were always going by cleaning the roads, and I feel like I don't see that as much anymore. Am I crazy?
Some. No, I've seen some,
but a lot of them are in construction sites where they have to be there. But I remember as a kid growing up in Guelph, Ontario, the humble streets of Guelph, and the street sweep. I'd be out on my bike, and the street sweepers would be going by, and I was like, "It's time. It's springtime."
Yeah, maybe, or the first time you hear an ice cream truck.
Do you guys remember Dickie D?
Yeah.
No. Oh, yeah.
The guys on the bikes, and they had to, there's a whole story about this, that they had to stop using them because they were getting robbed.
That's so sad.
That really
this is why we
sucks.
can't have nice things.
Really
Absolutely.
That is sad.
But you know what? I will say, for all the people out there that say, oh, look at, how the slippery slope this country's on and it's gone to this terrible place. This was happening in the 90s, man. People were holding up Dickie D's.
I think people misremember what their childhood was like.
Chuck Klosterman wrote that book, the 90s.
I read that, yeah.
And it's all about this idea, like the 90s actually kind of
It
sucked.
was a terrible time.
But we romanticize it, and this is a good.
Felt like a simpler time.
Yes.
Well, also because we were children at the time.
But I mean, society in general looks back very fondly on the 90s, and it was not very pretty.
Well, I hate to say it, it's because we're getting older.
Oh, no.
Also that, but it's funny.
How dare you?
But I've been reading through a lot of like old magazines from the 90s, and they're talking about all the same issues that we're still talking about today.
Yeah.
It has not gone away, so, you know.
Yeah. Well, and neither will this debate about autonomous vehicles.
I'm excited to see where it goes, because right now it feels like it's just going to fizzle out. To me, I think it's going to fizzle out.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything will come of this in a couple years.
Like 3D movies?
Yeah, like what the heck was that?
Yeah, I think we're in a very weird time. Lots of money is being dumped into this. And that's also the argument that I see, that people say, well, look at all the money that's being invested. But it's also like, well, look at all the money that Ford invested in the F-150 Lightning just to pull the plug on that. And Stellantis with this battery plant and all the debt write-downs, billions of dollars.
Look at Facebook and the metaverse. Like that was bust.
These companies don't care. So the idea of, this investment being the barometer that you're using for its long-term viability is so stupid.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
But also there's an AI argument for that as well. And I know, let's not get into that now. But if any of you have questions you would like to ask us, you can email expert@trader.ca. But that rounds up this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Drive safe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.